a very broad spectrum of issues. There's a lot of disputes, there's a lot of negotiations, there's a lot of intensity. Just like in a society, when you have conflicts with your neighbors or in the immediate neighborhood. Whereas when you're dealing with countries which are at a distance, the relationship is not so intense, it's not over such an extensive spectrum of issues. It is easier. So we'll now go on to the first slide, which answers to some extent the questions raised by you. So what is your foreign policy goal? What some of you have already answered right in the beginning. So to create more and more friends globally, bilaterally, multilaterally, regionally, to have more and more countries as partners, as friends. Next. Well, about India in particular, we have, for example, it's a very large population. It's the second largest in the world. We also have a very large Muslim population. Any Muslims in this class here? None? Well, I would have asked them the question as to how many Muslims in India. It's the second largest population of Muslims in the world is in India after Indonesia. We don't hear much about it internationally because it's very well assimilated into the country. And because of democracy, they have a voice, they have a presence. We have had lots of presidents who have been Muslims. We have had lots of leaders in all spheres, including in the business sphere, who are Muslims. So most of them would think of their Indian identity first before thinking of their religious identity. So we have cricket players who are Muslims, we have army officers who are Muslims who fight against Pakistan. So Pakistan fights on religious grounds.
May I ask, how do you know who is Muslim or who is Hindi or who is through census information, questionnaires, or?
Yes, we have census all the time to have a holistic view.
Okay.
But as individuals, from the names we find out, we get to know easily.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult to know, mostly. Almost all the time. But then we also have a lot of many languages, many religions, multi-ethnic identities. This is to know what you're projecting abroad as an Indian diplomat. You have to be aware of your own culture, your own background. Next. So as you look outside, Professor Cassandra, from India, if we look at the global situation today, we see this. There is evolution in terms of the equations, those two at that end. You seem to have some bilateral discussions going on there. So this is the focus as we look outside from India. You have the uncertainty, in so many aspects of the international situation, as you know. Evolution, changes which are taking place, shifts of power. Some countries emerging economically, some countries emerging politically, and global issues which are not within the domains today of one single system or one single country to resolve. Nuclear proliferation, drugs, all these issues are very important. North Korea. So it's not easy now today for any single system or country to just sit down and try to seek a solution. Afghanistan, Pakistan, it's becoming more and more interdependent world. India particularly, I'll just give you very briefly a situation of our region, for example. It's one of the most difficult regions in the world today. We have on all of our sides countries which are having a lot of problems, very serious problems. You know about Afghanistan, you know about Pakistan. Then on the other side we have Bangladesh, which again is facing a lot of internal problems. Nepal, which is facing problems of Maoism. Sri Lanka, which was again in very difficult situation till very recently with the local autonomy movement for autonomy amongst one ethnic community. So almost every country surrounding India, there's very little democracy, and if you are in as they say, you can choose your friends but you cannot choose your neighbors. Your neighbors are a given specification. So we are in that situation, very difficult situation regionally, where we have a very, very difficult neighborhood. Afghanistan is, just being held together. It's almost falling apart, but being held together with great difficulty. Pakistan is almost in a similar situation. So much of terrorism emanating out of that area. So along with the situation in the Middle East, in West Asia. So in that sort of environment, to make economic progress, to make, to go ahead, focus on your own developmental issues, poverty alleviation, and delink yourself from this regional disturbances which are impinging upon you all the time, because all these states are either trying to seek India's help for sorting out their problems or trying to create problems for India. So you're not immune, particularly with their neighbors. So even though there is a regional mechanism which is called the South Asia Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, SAARC for South Asia, grouping 8 countries of the region together. But still it's not easy to deal with the neighborhood. So the efforts are globally and regionally also similar. But the level of poverty, for example, in that region is amongst the maximum in the world. And some of the countries are slipping even further backwards.